Hello and welcome back to the channel. And today we have the first episode of a brand new series called The Cubers Corner. We're going to talk to cubers from all walks of the hobby, people at the top, delegates, people who go to comps casually, organizers, as many people as we can, and we're going to interview them and get a glimpse into what their life is like and how they go about what they do and how what they do shapes the community as a whole. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be episode 1. We're going to go bi-weekly probably, and for the very first episode, we have a wonderful treat. Luke Griesser was gracious enough to do an episode for me here. So we're going to get to dive deep into what's going on with him and how he approaches practice, etc. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you watch all the way until the end so you don't miss a single thing. And let's get right into it. Alrighty, hello. And thanks you for doing this. So I want to start out with some questions that are just kind of generic that you've probably been asked a gajillion times. So start off, like, what's your favorite event?
Um, so my favorite event obviously is 3x3 because like that's my main and everything. But my favorite event that I like have the most fun with is probably Square One, honestly. Just because I don't know a whole lot of algs and like I do just really enjoy spamming a bunch of slice moves and acting like I'm Dylan Bombach or Samir or something. But the most fun event for me is probably Square One, but my favorite event is gotta be 3x3.
Fair enough. If you remember this, what was the first cube you ever owned?
Ooh, okay. So there was a Rubik's brand cube because I mean that's how most people start out, right? It wouldn't be a car talk without the video falling off.
Yeah.
So the first cube I ever owned was a Rubik's brand 3x3. Still had stickers on it. It wasn't tiled back then or anything. It still had stickers. And the first speed cube that I ever got was a mini Moyu Wei Long V2, I believe. Um, so if that's a little bit of a throwback, if you remember that, that was back in 2015 when that was still like top of the line 3x3. It didn't have any magnets in it. Um, the corner piece, instead of like it flaring out or anything, it was just like it just went into the cube. Like the mechanism wasn't anything like how cubes are today. That was my first speed cube.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, the Rubik seems to be the very standard answer everybody has.
Yeah.
um, okay, what is your favorite cubing moment? It could be something that happened to you, something you watched happen, anything.
So that's a really good question. My favorite cubing moment that happened to me was definitely my last solve of North American champs, the 545 that locked in second play, or it didn't lock it in because Luke still had one more solve, but I was told immediately after that I was guaranteed podium, even though I wasn't, and so I had no idea what Luke was doing. So to be told that I was guaranteed podium, that meant that I was in first place at that time. So just finishing that solve and then like looking out at my friend Ben and him telling me that like that's burned into my head for forever, and I love that I have that memory. My favorite cubing moment that's involved somebody else though. If I was there for Luke's one-handed world record average, that would be it. But I was there for his 494 average, and if you like look at the video, I'm right there holding my phone, like I'm holding my calculator app, to because I knew what he had to get. So as soon as he stopped the timer, I knew that it was sub five, and we both celebrate and everything. So
Right.
those are my favorite moments.
Did you see the video he uploaded of the one-handed average with the
I did.
celly? The celly was epic.
It was insane. I've never seen a man fly so high after solving a Rubik's Cube before.
Yeah. And then this leads me into the next last like generic question. What is your favorite part about the cubing community as a whole?
It's a community where there's like very, very little to no toxicity. Um, there's like little scuffles, I guess is what you would call it, between like just cubers every now and then where like your ego will get in the way of like congratulating someone else for like their biggest achievement or something. Like I've fallen victim to this. There was a time at North American champs where someone got a really fast average and my ego got in the way and I wasn't able to acknowledge that, hey, it was a really fast average and they deserve credit for that. Um, but aside from that, like those are very, very rare circumstances. Like everyone most of the time celebrates everyone. And there's really no other community like that. There's no non-toxic community except for I think cubing. And people are trying to push for cubing to be a sport. And I just hope that if it does get like recognized as a sport, that that atmosphere isn't tainted because um, it's a very welcoming community for everyone who is involved in it. And I think that's why I've done it for so long.
Right. Very fair. All right, now we're gonna do a bit more of a deep dive into you particularly. Um, and first thing I want to ask you about is how did it feel to be selected for PSL, and what are your thoughts on the opportunity that PSL gives you as a cuber?
Okay, so Michael Chai actually came up to me before North American All Stars. I think he was one of the organizers of that. I don't know if he was a primary organizer. I do know he did all of the announcing. So he came up to me during All Stars and he said, I have you for podiuming at this competition and a North American champs. And I said, we'll see. And I remember he was one of the first people I went back. Um, and I said, you were right. And he said, I was right. So we were very familiar with each other already. And then I get the text that's like, do you want to come to PSL San Diego? And I was like, I can't afford that right now. And he said, I got you. I said, okay, let's do it. um, so now diving into like what sort of opportunities that is, I was actually looking at something like that, like not exactly a new league, but what I want to do for my career involves sports agency of some kind. So that would give me a bunch of um, connections in like that sports world. The ultimate tunnel vision goal was to like get a major championship on ESPN because like they have bowling, they have darts, they have um I mean chess is even like on ESPN sometimes. They have poker on ESPN. So I think watching a bunch of kids solve Rubik's cubes as fast as they possibly can is something that people would want to watch. So he kind of beat me to it, and I think that he has come up with a very good viewer friendly aspect. It's a bracket and it's head to head. Um, so people are already familiar with that sort of concept, especially because like this is March, we're getting into March Madness where there is like the ultimate bracket. So I think that he's done a great job with providing the audience with something that is, you know, very viewer friendly for someone who's not familiar with the world of speed cubing. As for what opportunities it has for me, um, if it depends on the success of PSL, obviously, but it's a glimpse into maybe cubing could like being a professional cuber could be a career, which would be insane. Because I mean, that's a dream. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. My hopes are very, very high for it, though.
Yeah, I hope it works out too. I think it's awesome. And this kind of segues into the next question. How are you preparing for PSL? And you're going to Worlds too, right? How are you preparing for those?
So preparing for PSL, I have two PSL comps before Worlds. I don't know where like the PSL grand final is or anything, so I might have three before Worlds, but I don't know anything about that yet. I'm going to San Diego and then I'm going to Port Huron in May. So prepping for PSL is very short term. Um, I'm not sure if I can share. I mean, I don't know like why it would be a secret, but PSL is going to be. He texted me and he told me to prepare for four pad mode. So I'm training for PSL just like any other comp as of right now. That might change, but as of right now, I'm just like my normal routine, but with four pad mode, so I can get used to it. Um, Prepping for Worlds, however, is a more long term sort of thing. So I have I created sort of a vision of what I want my perfect solving to look like. And it varies a lot with each scramble, but basically I want to see at least two pairs in inspection and then be able to one look the rest of F2L plus EO with a question mark at the end of it because I don't want to do CBLS, but I will force all of the edges to be oriented whenever I can. So I basically want to be able to three look solve, um, which I guess is going to be the meta at some point. But that meta is going to be cross plus three, CBLS, CBLL. But for me, I can't see three pairs, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to force myself to be able to buy girls. But I'm going to try because if you just train to be able to see two pairs in competition, if you get a bad scramble and you can only see one, that's where disaster strikes. So I've been pushing myself with inspection, maybe not as much as I should be, but I'm still pushing myself. Um, so you have to, this is going to be a little advice for everyone out there. If you have a goal, you need to ask yourself, okay, what steps do I need to take to get to that goal? Like, what does that goal specifically look like? And I was like, okay, I want to do really well in finals and I want to have a sub five average officially at some point. The like specific details of that are I want to be US national champion at least, and I want, sorry, go ahead.
The last thing that you were at, you were talking about how you wanted to be U.S. national champion at some point.
Yeah. So, my goals for this upcoming Worlds are I want to be U.S. national champion at least because there's not going to be a U.S. nationals, I don't think. And like at some point, I want to have North American record average, and for right now, that's 486. So I asked myself, what does a perfect sub five solve look like? And I was like, okay, those are the steps that I need to aspire to have on every solve. So then I was like, okay, now that I know those are the steps I need to take, what do I need to practice in order to make that consistent? So being able to break down your goals as much as you can and like being able to do the critical thinking, I guess, for you to actually be able to achieve those goals, practice up to being able to achieve those goals is a very good life skill, not just for cubing, but for everything in general. So that's the little side piece of advice slash rants going off of like my practice routine. That's what you can get out of this if you're watching.
Okay. And a little bit more about practice. I was watching one of your other car talks recently where you mentioned that you think people should only be doing just straight solving sessions if they're feeling burnt out. And I wondered, like, how much targeted practice do you do a week, maybe like hour wise, and like how often do you end up doing just straight solve sessions?
So I've been really bad about this lately, just because um, I've been lazy, but that's just like the past couple of days. Um, I ideally my week would look like having a inspection day, having a turning day. So like practicing things um, that are just inspection, and then you're like, okay, cool. Well, where can I go from here? And then you are practicing things that are only turning, and then you're like, okay, cool. Where can I go from here? So then you just rotate between those. Um, yeah, so that would be my ideal week. What those look like though, would be like my inspection days are normally like cross plus two runs. I'm gonna eventually bump it up to cross plus three runs. So like it's unlimited inspection where I have to see cross plus two and time my execution. So I guess it's a mix of both TPS and being able to inspect, but it's mainly inspection because you're inspecting until that's what you see. Um, What else do I do for inspection days? I do slow turning solves for look ahead purposes because that trains your brain to be able to look for those type of things. And if you're able to look ahead effectively, then you're able to inspect effectively as well. Um, there's one more thing that I normally do, and I can't remember right now. But for my turning days, PLL time attack is not just something like fun to do sometimes. It's the best turning drill that you can do by far. It increases TPS. It helps you with um, being able to turn accurately, um, and you're doing all the PLLs, and like that's the last stage of your solve. So if you're consistently locking up on a bunch of PLLs, you can say, okay, I need to fix this, do PLL time attack a bunch. And now the goal is to just execute it like you would during PLL time attack. Because during that whole thing, you're turning the cube so much where like one lockup could cost you like a PB. Like I think my fastest PLL time attack, I think I have I have two sub 20s. I don't know the decimals because like I don't keep track of it like that much. But one lockup can be detrimental to the entire attempt. So it trains yourself to not make mistakes, and it trains you to turn faster, and it trains you to turn more accurately. So there's really no reason why you shouldn't be doing PLL time attack. And on top of that, I did say I do slow turning and inspection, and that's true. But I also do slow turning and turning because it's slow turning. It makes your turn. You can use that drill. I'm talking a lot. You can use that drill. You can use that drill for your brain, and you can use it for your fingers in two different ways. So if you're slow turning with intent on accurate turning, that's a whole different thing than slow turning with the intent of I am looking ahead, I am 100% focused. Those are two different drills, even though you're using like the same thing. Like, I'm trying to think of a good term. I'm trying to think of a basketball analogy because like that's my other thing that I do.
Right.
It's I guess you could say it's 3-point shooting versus like mid-range shooting. So like you're shooting from 21 feet out as opposed to shooting like 10 feet out. That would be my comparison between the two. The only other thing that I do, that doesn't really have anything to do with either of those is Best Side Ever is not only where I learned all of my PLLs from and drilled them. It also has a OLL trainer. It also has a PLL trainer, and it has a two-sided PLL recognition trainer. So what happens is it shows you two sides of the cube. Well, yellow's on top, but then it shows you two sides of the cube, and you have to type in what PLL it is. So if it's like an NA perm, you just type in N, and it moves on to the next one. And if you get it wrong, it tells you, and then you have to click that key in order to keep going. So it's from every single angle. So I think there's either 72 or 73 different ones. My goal has always been like sub 1. I'm not sure how often I get it because, like I said, I've been lazy and haven't really been doing it. But that's something that I think you should do at home if you're watching this.
Cool. Okay, and so you're a big mindset guy. Like, what kind of stuff have you worked on for your mindset to help you become that next level cuber that you're looking to be?
So I've gone through a ton of different mindsets. And I mean, every day I hear things that change my mindset about things. Just yesterday, I heard something, and I talk about that in the vlog that I'm doing today. But it started off as like NAC 2022. I had a terrible mindset. It was like, I call it the whiplash mentality, and it's not good. If you've ever seen like Whiplash, you know what I'm talking about. And I explain it a little bit in a lot of my videos. Highly do not recommend it. Nats 2023, same mindset, same outcome, choked in finals. And then my best solve of that finals was after I stopped caring so much and was having a good time. So that is kind of what clicked in my head. I was like, okay, why am I taking it so seriously if it's being that detrimental? Like I've choked in finals the last 2 years, and the one good solve that I've had was after I stopped caring. So the next year was me trying to implement that, and it was hard because like I'm a complete mindset switch is so difficult. So I ended up landing on like if you watch the stream of NAC 24, you can see me like waving like that to the Happy Feet camera, or I guess for speedcubing TV now. Um, and after the first solve, it was pretty bad, but I told myself, whatever, I have four more. After the second solve, it was locky, very, very locky, and I expressed that. Um, but I laughed it off. And then after that, I get 5-2. And then pressure kind of gets to me, and I turn the cube during inspection. So solve four, I throw that out. Like, I don't remember anything about it besides the cube turn. And then solve five, I hear no, I see the reaction of the crowd for the first time because in between solves, I put my hood up and put my head down specifically so I wouldn't see their reaction to Luke's times. And that was the first one where I had seen the crowd's reaction to it. And his solve four was a four. So I see the initial reaction. And then as soon as he went like he stood up and went like that to the crowd, there was another reaction. So what I thought that was a reaction to a good single and then a reaction to him realizing it was a good average. So I was like, okay, he already beat me. Nothing matters anymore. Let's just do this solve. That's exactly what happened. And then I finished it, look in the crowd, and they told me that I beat him, which wasn't true at the time, but it ended up being true. So being able to not take yourself too seriously, like you need to take yourself seriously, like handle yourself with confidence and that sort of thing,
Right.
but don't take yourself too seriously because it can be detrimental.
Cool. That's something I got to work on too. I know sometimes I get like super into it at comps for no reason.
It's
And
not for any reason. It just shows that you care about it. Like
right,
everyone cares about
right.
this.
So this kind of segues into the next question is like, at the level that you compete at, like, how are you handling pressure? And with that mindset, I mean, that explains how you keep the internal pressure off yourself, but like, there's got to be some external pressure.
Um, People expecting me to perform well has kind of never affected me, honestly. Um, it's just been internalized pressure that I put on myself. Like, um, I did really well in semifinals of both NAC 22 and NATS 23. And then finals is when I put all the pressure on myself, and then I crumbled under it. But then NAC 24, it seemed like the only pressure that I had was being put on me by other people. Um, so I guess I'm not the person to ask about that because I've experienced so much pressure of me putting it on myself to the point where pressure from other people doesn't really affect me because I learned how to deal with pressure from myself. For those watching, that does not mean start putting a ton of pressure on yourself so that whenever other people expect you to do well, it doesn't matter. Don't
Right.
do that. Learn how to handle the pressure on your own by not caring as much. Still care, still be passionate about it, but don't get upset with yourself whenever you mess up.
Right. It sounds like
So,
a fine line.
yeah, I'm not the best person to ask about that just because of my personal experience.
Right. Well, not being affected by the outside pressure doesn't seem like a bad problem to have.
No, 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 not at all.
And finally, this kind of brings us to wrapping it up. If you had to give one solid piece of advice to people trying to improve, what would it be?
Don't model your solving style after one specific person. You're most likely not going to be able to turn like Ehung. You're most likely not going to be able to inspect like Timon. You're not going to be able to look ahead like Timon. take bits and pieces from everybody that you look up to and put that into your solving. So I try to do F2L like Timon. I'm not nearly as good at it, but I try. That's what I took from him. From Gihung, what I took was just OLL and PLL can be fine sometimes. Like you don't have to do ZB every single time. And from Zhuangyi, what I took was my ZB recognition has to be faster for whenever I do get a ZB. Um, there's other people. I want to turn like Brian Johnson. Shout out to him. He he has the best turning in the world, if you ask me. Simone would probably be a close second, but if you look at Brian when he's in flow state, his turning is magnificent. So take bits and pieces from every single person that you look up to, and you're like, I want to turn like him. I want to do solutions like him. I want to look ahead like him. That sort of thing. Like be able to be flexible, and don't treat yourself like Timon because you're not Timon. Don't treat yourself like Yihung because you're not Yihung.
Right.
That would ultimately be my biggest piece of advice. My second biggest piece of advice would be if you want to improve, I do I do offer coaching through cubing.gg. I have a written review option, I have a 30-minute video call option, and I have a month-long coaching option. This third one just drops. Not a lot of people know about it, and it's the most value by far. So check that one out. But if you want to dip your toes in the water, check out the other two.
Right, and it didn't. You did the video with the cubicle too with was it Steven? So if you want to check out what those sessions are like, you can go watch that on their YouTube too.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to talk with me and give me all those wonderful insights that you have into cubing and everything.
Yeah, for sure, man. I love talking to my camera. So having like detailed, like I've always loved answering questions for some reason. So talking is kind of what I like to do.
Yeah, no, it's pretty epic. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed that as much as I did interviewing Luke. He was very awesome to talk to. It was a wonderful time. Make sure you go down in the description below and you check out all of his accounts that I've linked, and check out cubing.gg to book a session with him if you're interested in coaching with him. And, thanks again for watching all the way through. I really appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe so you can see the next episode when it comes out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.